experiencing
so
in our
saying that it's okay for people to decide their gender
in that situation, but that's not what we're talking about in our culture.
I'm a biologist. I understand the biology.
My problem is with the children.
In this video, we are going to see a biologist confront Frank Turek about gender. And this is an important one in the context of today's woke clown world, because it goes to show just how severe the selective bias is of people who want to bend reality in order to fit within the parameters of their ideology. Ideologies that take very religious-like structures. So with that, let's get into the clips.
What do you have to say for people who don't fit in your definition of man or woman? I'm a biologist. I understand the biology. Are you saying that a woman is only a person who has two X chromosomes and a man who is someone who only has an X and a Y chromosome?
I think that's the scientific definition, yes.
It's actually not, because there can be people with XXY. There can be Y chromosome inactivation. The way that this biology works is that you have genes. Those genes make proteins. Those proteins develop the traits that you define as men and women. They develop the features that you define as male. They develop the genitalia. But you can be a woman with female genitalia and be XY. You can be a man, but you can have XX chromosomes.
Yeah, I understand what you're talking about, Grace. You're talking about a very rare condition known as intersexed.
One in 100 people experience chromosomal differences in sex.
Okay, but not 1 in 100 have different genitalia or ambiguous genitalia.
And what do you say to those people?
Well, what you say is that's a situation that is not the norm. We're not saying that they're not people, obviously. As I understand it, maybe you know more about it than me, when you do have a truly intersexed person, at that point, either the parents or when they're old enough, they can decide which way they're going to orient themselves and they can get the appropriate surgery. But that's not what we're experiencing in our culture.
It's okay for people to decide their gender
in that situation, but that's not what we're talking about in our culture. What we're talking about in our culture are people with perfectly normal functioning sexual organs trying to have them removed and trying to transition to another gender, which is impossible scientifically.
So first things first, we have to get straight here. This is not a biologist. This is a biology student. Those things are very, very different. So her little argument from authority there is not only a very cringeworthy logical fallacy, but also a gross embellishment of her own pedigree. But this is another case of what we so often see this day, which is ideologues who will come up with a way to explain around the exact same thing, which is the fact that intersex people exist. But the deception is that they present it in a way that suggests that there is more than two sexes. And it's important to be able to refute this one because it's not only extremely deceptive, but it's also very easily squashed. There are only two sexes, male and female. Intersex people are either male or female. Biological sex is determined by gametes, which is either sperm or eggs. There are no intermediate gametes and it is impossible to have both, or else they would be able to get themselves pregnant, which is impossible. And I won't get too graphic in this video about what intersex is and how this actually occurs, but what I can tell you is that it's a birth defect and it's generally caused during pregnancy. As much as the ideologues will tell you that it's not a defect, it is. It's an abnormality. And another thing that they'll cherry pick is that they'll say that intersex people are as common as redheads, which is just false. And this has been widely debunked. It's a whole video in itself, but basically that number comes from a lady named Anne Fausto Sterling. She's a sexologist who came up with that number 1.7%, but she included in that many conditions which aren't actually intersex. Things like late onset adrenal hyperplasia, Turner syndrome, and Klinefelter syndrome. It's very dishonest when you get to the crux of it, and it's manufactured numbers as well. And it's designed to make it seem as though this is not an abnormality. This is a third sex, which it's not. And the example that I like to use is the example of polydactyly. Polydactyly is when a baby is born with one or more extra fingers and toes. Yes, people can be born with 11 fingers, but that doesn't mean that the number of fingers that human beings have is now up for dispute. Abnormalities exist. There is established biological norms, and then there is abnormalities which we accept on the peripheries. And like Frank Turek says, this has nothing to do with people who are clearly XX or XY having their perfectly healthy genitalia removed. But here's the point with this one. When we have these situations arise, and not just in biology, but where people want to deny basic fundamental truths and deny reality by using arguments from authority, which in our current education landscape and just in our current cultural ecosystem is going to be happening more and more. We have to be able to put our foot down and say no. I know what reality is and I won't be pushed around. Rant over. Back to the clips.
Have you ever doubted that you're a man?
Mm-hmm.
You've doubted that you...
Oh, have I ever doubted I'm a man? No, I have never doubted I'm a man.
Then what do you say to a transgender person who has never doubted their gender? You're saying that we all change and that obviously transgenderism is a product of some kind of phase, but you've never doubted that you're a man. So
no,
where's your development of this change?
Grace, I'm not denying there are people truly with gender dysphoria. I've already said that. What I'm saying is the way out of that problem is not surgery according to the data. Okay? Psychiatry is the way out of that problem.
I also don't agree with your statement that after surgery, you implied that transgender people are more likely to commit suicide after surgery. But the statistics say that transgender people are more likely to commit suicide because of arguments that you make that they're invalid.
No, I'm not saying they're invalid.
I'm just saying that you implied that it's the surgery that's causing suicide
No, it's
rates.
not.
Guys, if you enjoy this video and if you like this channel, if you get value from my work, then leave me a like to help me with my algorithms and also comment on the video. We've got so much to discuss with this one. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Back to the clips.
What I'm saying is the surgery doesn't fix anything. That's the point. It's practically the same rate whether they have the surgery or not.
If you woke up and grew breasts today, would like them to be removed? There are many.
Say that again?
Have you ever heard of gynecomastia?
I had it.
And so did you have that fixed?
Yes, I did.
And did that make you feel affirmed in your gender and comfortable in your body?
No, when I was in the Navy, nobody knows this, by the way. Jesus, now I'm revealing I need a HIPAA form to sign here or something.
You don't have to talk about it.
No, what I'm saying is, yes, I've had that myself and had it surgically removed when I was in the Navy. Yeah.
And do you feel more comfortable in your body and more affirmed in your gender because of that?
Well, it wasn't a gender thing for me. It was the fact, well, I can't even get into it now because it had nothing to do with my gender. Okay. So it had to do with the fact that it looked really odd. Let me just put it that way. Okay. But Grace, my point is if we truly care about people, are we going to try and force them down a road, particularly as children, into a solution to a problem which is proven not to be a solution?
You just said that having that surgery made you feel better about yourself.
That has nothing to do with transgender surgery. I wasn't changing my sex. I was having breast tissue removed. Okay? I was always a man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So...
And say that I have XY chromosomes, but I'm born with female genitalia and female body types, but I believe I'm a man. Should I not be allowed to have that breast tissue removed?
As an adult, you can do whatever you want.
Yes, that's fine.
My problem is with the children. That's where I'm having a real problem.
Is there a magic button at 18 that instantly makes you feel like you know who you are and absolutely what your gender is?
No, well, I think for women, it's probably like 15. For men, it's 37. To be honest with you, okay? Because men don't develop as quickly as women, all right? But no, we've just chosen 18 kind of as the adulthood crossing point, although for some issues it's 21, like drinking, okay? So, no, maybe it's later than 18, okay? My big problem, and I would say this to somebody who's 37, that the surgery does not appear to help anyone. And if you want more data on this, you can go to sexchangeregret.com. Sexchangeregret.com. But I wouldn't even be talking about this issue unless I thought the current way the culture's going is hurting people. And it is. Why would I bring all this abuse on myself?
So for those of you who aren't aware, gynecomastia is a condition that is legitimately very common within men, where they experience overdevelopment or enlargement of breast tissue. This is generally caused by a decrease in testosterone compared with estrogen. It has absolutely nothing to do with your gender or sex and can happen for a range of reasons. But here's the point. This individual is so brainwashed by whatever the hell she is learning at her university that she's become completely divorced from reality. And there's something that's particularly scary about this, because she's a biology student and the hard sciences are the ones that are meant to be somewhat impervious from these woke ideologies. There's supposed to be an unwritten contract between those who study the sciences and use the scientific method that the facts are the boss. Having the humanities captured by ideology is one thing, and you can see why they would veer into the more esoteric realms of ideological thinking. But when we start to see this tribalism and this confirmation bias happening within the sciences, it's pretty concerning. And maybe I'm wrong here, and let me know if I am, and if the sciences have always been like this. But in my view, this has really only happened recently on any large scale. And you just have to think that these brainwashed students are going to be the experts of tomorrow. They're going to be the arbiters of scientific truth. They're going to be the ones addressing the nation about how many masks we should wear this week. And it really is a truly Orwellian thought for the future, that's for sure. And I really do hope we can turn this ship around. Anyways, guys, as usual, hit the links in the bio, find me on social medias, follow my other YouTube channels. And if you guys want to watch another clip, click right here. Until next time, I'm Jake. This is Rattlesnake TV, keeping you armed and dangerous.